and that is menopause. क्यों अपने community ਵਿੱਚ menopause ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਬਹੁਤ ਘੱਟ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਅਵੇਅਰਨੈਸ ਵੀ ਘੱਟ ਹੈਗੀ ਔਰ ਕਈ ਲੋਕ ਇਹ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਕਿ ਤੇ ਬੀਬੀਆਂ ਰਿਲੇਟਡ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਹੈਗਾ ਹੈ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਪਤਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ ਬਟ ਨਾਟ ਰਿਅਲਾਈਜ਼ਿੰਗ that it impacts the family unit completely and it also impacts men and that is why it's important that all of us understand what this is all about. So ਅੱਜ menopause awareness ਬਾਰੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਪਰ ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਉਹ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਸਮਝ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ what is menopause? ਤੇ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਥੋੜਾ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਚਾਹੋ please feel free and then we'll come to the conversation.
So I am a health coach and my business is called Wellness by Aneet. And I support all clients in improving their health, largely through food habits and nutrition, movement and exercise, stress management and lifestyle changes. But a large part of my work, it focuses on helping women understand the changes that are happening in their bodies during transitional times, like fertility or hormonal changes and menopause. So lots of women, they might come to me feeling exhausted, struggling with symptoms like energy levels, weight gain, anxiety, struggling in sleep and feeling overwhelmed. And they might want support to be able to make changes so they can start feeling like themselves again. But what I like about being in this role is that helping women realize that these changes are not personal failure. It's just about being more connected to their body and managing hormonal changes so they can feel healthier and more confident again.
So this is really useful because ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇੰਝ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਈ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ as we were having a conversation last time, diabetes is something that everyone is happy and willing to talk about, but then there are issues that we struggle to talk about. But if we have people like you in the community who are able to provide not only that information but space, that safe space for the conversation, but as well as the way forward, a बहुत positive ਗੱਲ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੇ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਨਾ ਸਿਰਫ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਮਝਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ ਪਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਉਹ ਕੁਆਲੀਫਿਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਉਹ ਸਪੇਸ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਉਹ ਮਦਦ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ ਤਰੀਕਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ you can reach out to as many people and it's so good to know that there are so many ways that you help people with ਭਾਵੇਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਖਾਣੇ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਹੋਏ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਲਾਈਫਸਟਾਈਲ ਚੇਂਜਸ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਹੋਏ ਮੈਂਟਲ ਵੈਲਬੀਇੰਗ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਹੋਏ ਤੇ thank you for all you do for our community and the way you're reaching out to everyone. So coming to the topic today, what exactly is menopause?
So menopause is the point at which a woman has not had a menstrual period for 12 straight months. And this is when she's not using a contraception. And it happens because the ovaries gradually produce less estrogen and less progesterone, which are really important reproductive hormones. So there's a really big drop in these hormones. And what many women don't realize is that the symptoms can start years before menopause itself. And that stage is called perimenopause. So during perimenopause, hormone levels can go up and down. And this stage can be just as difficult for women. And that stage can last several years. So menopause is a natural transition. It's a lot like puberty, but because it happens so much later in life, it often gets a lot less attention and support. So some women experience only a few mild symptoms, while others find like the change is really difficult and it really affects their daily life. Some of these symptoms are like irregular periods or hot flushes, night sweats, anxiety, poor sleep, brain fog, and changes in mood. I think for so many years, menopause was really not really discussed openly in like South Asian households. Women they're expected just to simply get on with it and put everybody else's needs before their own. And I don't know about you, Kamal, but I've heard it a few times. Elders to me, oh, we just had to get on with it. We didn't have a choice.
But Aneet, I wanted to understand because I think one, there is a cultural thing, and in terms of how we talk about it, but also in terms of support. मैं किधरे पढ़ रही थी कि Japanese women and all of those, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ life in perimenopause, during menopause, post menopause ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ better ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਲਾਈਫ ਸਟਾਈਲ ਉਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੋਲ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਐਂਸ਼ੀਐਂਟ ਵਿਜ਼ਡਮ ਹੈਗਾ ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਪਰਿਵਾਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ, ਜਿਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫਾਇਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ. ਸੋ thinking about my grandmother or my mother, even like as recent as that, it wasn't a big deal for them. It really wasn't a big deal for them. Why then does it suddenly feel that because we are in this country, we are aware of it, it has become a big deal? Or do you think it was always a big deal, पर उस बारे गल नहीं सी कीती जांदी?
I think it's a mixture of both, Kamal, because I think it's so personal to you, because some women don't find it a challenge and other women, they do find it a challenge. And whereas now, the support system might not be the same as what our mothers or grandmothers might have had. I think the other thing is what a lot of women don't realize is most women reach menopause between 45 to 55, but it's different for South Asian women because there have been some studies to show that South Asian women, they might start menopause slightly younger, around 46 to 49. And so this means symptoms can begin much earlier during perimenopause, in the early 40s or even in the late 30s for some women. I mean, this means that, it's research we didn't have before. So a woman might visit her GP because she feels unwell. She might feel anxious, forgetful, or exhausted. She might have aches and pains in her body, and she might not.
Not connect the dots, really. Not connect the dots, क्योंकि कई बारी सोचते हैं कि हो सकता है कि तुसी probably you are just probably in your 30s and you might not even connect, as you said, कि सोच भी नहीं पाओगे कि अच्छा मेरे नाल इदा किदा हो सकता है, but it could be happening. Interesting. That's quite interesting.
So we have this research now that we didn't have before, and now we have this understanding. So each woman, she's going to have her own experience. And I think the most common symptoms that we hear about are hot flushes and night sweats and sleep disturbances, and the one that even I have my own battle with, which is weight gain. But there are some that I want to list that people are probably not aware of and women aren't aware of, and they're not as common, but they're like tiredness, and there's brain fog, which is the memory and the forgetfulness and the anxiety, mood changes, joint aches, vaginal dryness. And then, lots of women, they have like UTIs and vaginal irritation. And so I think maybe some women might not associate some of those things with perimenopause or menopause if they're still having their periods. So that's just something else to consider. But it's really interesting. A friend of mine said that for 1 year, she thought she had dementia because her memory was so bad and she was too scared to tell anyone. She didn't tell her husband, she didn't tell her family, she didn't tell her friends. And then after a year, she finally managed to gain the courage to go to the GP, who said, actually, this is just the start of her transition, from perimenopause to menopause, and this is all part of her symptoms. And I just think it's really important to create this awareness, because I can't imagine how scared she must have been for 1 year, thinking.
Yeah, and what is the point, or at what point do you think it's important for us to reach out to the GPs? As you said, ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ experience different ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ late 30s ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ issue ਆ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ, ਕਈਆਂ ਨੂੰ 40s ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ, ਕਈਆਂ ਨੂੰ 50s ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ. It is ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੇ lived experiences difference ਹੈਗੇ ਆ. ਪਰ ਕਿਸ point ਤੇ, ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ friend ਨੇ ਪੂਰਾ 1 ਸਾਲ ਸਫ਼ਰ ਕੀਤਾ and then she went to the GP, ਕਿਹੜੇ point ਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ GP ਨਾਲ conversation ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰਨੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ what kind of symptoms that we see that we need to talk to GP about?
Yeah, I think so. I've listed some of the symptoms now, but women should speak to their GP whenever symptoms start affecting their quality of life, or they feel like there's something that just doesn't sit right with them. I think as a woman, you have your own knowing about your own body, and there's no need to suffer in silence. So whether the symptoms are mild or severe, support is available. And, you know, some women might benefit from lifestyle changes alone, and some women might wish to discuss medical options, which is hormone replacement therapy, and that's called HRT. There is different types of HRT options, and you can read about those on the NHS website. And then you can make an appointment with your GP, and he or she has your full medical history and can give you the correct medical advice. So if you feel like you're having symptoms, then I think you are within your, you know, entitlement to go and give your GP a call and have that conversation. I wouldn't ever sit there and feel like you're worrying or you're wasting your GP's time or it's not important. I would definitely make the appointment. And if you're not sure, you know, trust in a friend or have a conversation with a friend or a family member first, and take a family member or a friend with you if you don't feel comfortable.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't hesitate. You know, to get help.
It is a good way of looking at things, because ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਮਦਦ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਖੁਦ ਮੈਨੇਜ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਪਾ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਮਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ, ਉਸ ਵਕਤ GP ਨੂੰ ਅਪਰੋਚ ਕਰਨਾ ਬੜਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ. ਅਤੇ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅਨੀਤ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ, ਇਕੱਲੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਤੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਫਰੈਂਡ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਨਾਲ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ, ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਕਨਵਰਸੇਸ਼ਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਮਦਦ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਮਦਦ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ. ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਲੋਟ ਆਫ ਥਿੰਗਸ ਕੈਨ ਬੀ ਲੋਸਟ ਇਨ ਟਰਾਂਸਲੇਸ਼ਨ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ ਬੈਰੀਅਰਸ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ, ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਝਿਜਕ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ, ਅਤੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਐਸੇ ਫਰੈਂਡ ਨੂੰ ਨਾਲ ਲੈ ਜਾਣਾ ਜੋ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਸਹੀ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਰ ਸਕੇ, ਉਹ ਬੜਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ. ਪਰ ਸਮਟਾਈਮਸ ਅਨੀਤ, ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਵੀ ਕਮ ਫਰੋਮ ਅ ਕਲਚਰ ਵੇਅਰ ਇਹ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ avoid doctors as much as you can, isn't it? We come from a culture jithe doctor to dur raho, vakil to dur raho, police to dur raho, not realizing they're here to help us out. So matlab dur raho ki koi jaan di lod nahi. Fir, is there a way that you can also naturally manage menopause? Because some people say that, you know, HRTs are not a good thing. It works for some, it doesn't work for some. So is there a way where you can manage menopause or menopausal, perimenopausal symptoms naturally?
Yeah. So if you decide to take HRT or you don't decide to take HRT, that is your personal choice. And I am always about women having their own personal choice. But once you've made that decision, I think you should always be managing with lifestyle support. And I think now, Kama, we'll be talking more and more on this show. But, you know, well-being is important regardless of what stage of life you're in. So we have to be looking after ourselves. But yes, absolutely. Food won't stop the menopause, but the right nutrition can help manage symptoms and also support your long-term health. So as I said earlier, you know, during the stage, we have a reduction in the reproductive hormones, and one of them is estrogen. So one area that I often discuss with clients is phytoestrogens. And these are natural plant compounds that have a mild estrogen-like effect in the body. And what we can do is find them in certain foods and gain them from certain foods that we eat. So some of them are tofu, flax seeds, some people call flax seeds linseeds, they're the same thing, chana, lentils, beans, you know, and these foods, they fit very, very nicely into South Asian diets. I think if you are experiencing hot flushes and night sweats right now, and it's hot, so this is going to be extra challenging at the moment, making sure you stay hydrated, because if you're not hydrated enough, the intensity of your flush is going to be more. So at least drinking 1.5 to 2 liters of fluids, limiting your caffeine, reducing your alcohol intake. The next one, I'm going to put a little caveat on this. Avoid very spicy foods if they trigger symptoms. I say this because we're all from Punjabi backgrounds and we all like a bit of matcha in our food, but they might not trigger everybody. So what I would say is if they are triggering you, leave the matcha on the side, cook your dal or your sabji, and then maybe chop up some fresh chilies and then put them on the table so whoever wants matcha in the food can have it and you can have your meal without the matcha. So
That's
eating
good.
regular balanced meals.
And as you said, let me just, for the context of our listeners, ਅਲਸੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਫਲੈਕਸੀਡ ਬਾਰੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਲਿਨਸੀਡ ਵੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ, ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਦਦ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ। ਅਤੇ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅਨੀਤ ਦੱਸ ਰਹੇ ਕਿ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਸਿੰਪਟਮਸ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ, ਸੋ ਹਰ ਚੀਜ਼ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਟ੍ਰਿਗਰ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਅਵੋਇਡ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜੋ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਫਰੈਂਡ ਨੂੰ ਟ੍ਰਿਗਰ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਟ੍ਰਿਗਰ ਕਰੇ। Simply because you're the same age, you are going through similar symptoms, your triggers could be entirely different. ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਟ੍ਰਿਗਰ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ ਉਸਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅਵੋਇਡ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਅਤੇ ਹਾਈਡਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਹੀ ਹੈ ਅਨੀਤ, ਹਾਈਡਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਬੜੀ ਮਤਲਬ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਪਰਸਨਲ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਦੱਸਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਮੈਨੂੰ 1.5-2 ਲੀਟਰ ਪਾਣੀ ਪੀਣਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਔਖਾ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਦਿਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲ ਨਾਲ ਔਰ ਬਹੁਤ ਅਵੇਅਰ ਹੋਵਾਂ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਪਾਣੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੀਤਾ ਅਤੇ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਮਸਾਂ 3-4 ਗਲਾਸ, ਮਸਾਂ 3, I would say I am even, I don't feel dehydrated, but I'm sure I am because I'm not taking enough water in, but I don't feel thirsty at all. So it's like I have to consciously tell myself that I want water, and then I drink 3 or 4 glasses max a day, even that when I'm aware that I haven't had any water today.
Yeah, but you know, I said 1.5 to 2 liters of fluids. So that will include your tea and your coffee and your juice. And so, you know, if you're struggling with water, you can try and include some coconut juice, coconut water in your day as well. And you can include foods with a high water content like cucumber, melon, and berries. So you can try and do other things to compensate. I'm not saying to have a lot of caffeine because that can be a trigger for hot flushes as well. But I think you can also maybe, some people like to put like a squeeze of lime in their water and just like a little bit of a touch of Himalayan salt, a touch of salt, and help them, you know, to feel hydrated that way. And if you want to, you can just put a tiny bit of, even a squeeze of orange to give it a bit of a taste if you just don't like water. So you can have coconut water. And so if you have 2 cups of tea a day, those 2 cups count towards your fluid. So if that's what you have regularly. So I think a lot of people get really caught up on just the water, but they forget actually, you know, the tea counts as well, the juice counts as well.
Yeah, that's helpful to know because you don't want to overload yourself with fluids either, isn't it? You just, your body would know when it needs what it needs.
Yeah.
Does stress management play a part in any of this? In you know, allaying any symptoms or? It does, or how does it fit with how we manage menopause naturally? Would it be
Yeah, I think when women are stressed, they get, you know, they experience poorer sleep and they have increased anxiety and lower energy, and you know, it can trigger the flushes. So stress management is an essential part of menopause care. So I would say, you know, do something, whether it's 5 to 10 minutes of deep breathing, meditation, quiet reflection, whether it's playing with your kids, talking to your husband, spending time with your parents, grandparents, you know, something that makes you feel good. You know, we often underestimate the importance of slowing down and giving ourselves permission to rest. That's like a really important aspect of well-being. As women, I think sometimes we put ourselves right at the bottom of the list when we should be at the top of the list. We end up putting the kids, our parents, our husband, running the house, and then we come last. But I think when women get to menopause, they just get so tired and they get exhausted. You know, in perimenopause and menopause, they kind of realize, I can't do this. And then they start to slow down naturally anyway. But we need to look after ourselves during this time, and we need to eat well and eat the right food and take care of ourselves so we can get through this transition in a good way and support our body. And stress management is part of that.
Yeah, that's really good to know, because I think when you are stressed or when you're going through those symptoms, not everybody will understand what's happening to you. But then ਉਹਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ relationships ਤੇ impact ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੀ ਹੈ, especially the partners. How do you think the partners are affected in menopause? Because, you know, especially men would be like, you know, no, because it is difficult. You know, it's probably they know the theory of it all, that this is what happens to women, but they might not actually realize what is happening to their wives or partners, you know, day to day, every day. So how does that impact?
Yeah, I think, you know, naturally a woman might feel less patient than usual, more sensitive or exhausting from trying to manage daily responsibilities because she's got low energy. And I think sometimes family members might just misunderstand these changes and assume the woman is just being difficult or over, you know, emotional. But I think if you think about it, sometimes if your hormones are fluctuating erratically, going up and down, it's a bit of a hormonal roller coaster for you. So you might not have control over how you're feeling sometimes, and that can be really difficult. So communication becomes really important during this stage. So having a conversation with your family is really important so they can understand that what you're going through. If your family can support you with just being patient, helping with household chores if you're feeling extra tired, you know, supporting you with the children and your parents, you know, and getting on board with the healthy eating. I think, you know, when you go through menopause, you might be changing your diet, you might be changing the way you eat things, and you might be including extra protein with your meals. And it helps if everybody can do that journey with you rather than trying to figure it all out yourself. Having these open conversations at home is good. So the more support you can give your spouse or that person in the family is good. So, you know, often we think perimenopause and menopause is a journey that a woman has to go through on her own. Actually, it's not. Actually, she needs support.
Yeah, and so well said. I think, and I think the direct impact on family life, especially the partners, is the lack of physical intimacy that comes into play. You know, because of what is happening to the hormones in women. So how do you get around that? How do you tell your partner that it's not you, it's me, or it's not you, it's the hormones? How does that equation then fit into place?
This is such an excellent question, Kamal. I'm so glad you asked this question. It's really normal because, you know, estrogen falls. And also, like, I think sometimes, you know, women have less, you know, they have vaginal dryness and things might be different. So I think you need to have this communication with your partner about, you know, there might be times where you don't feel like you want to be intimate physically, or, you know, maybe you do, but having that communication to let them know. So they don't feel like you're rejecting them, but actually it's your, you know, hormonal journey and it's not your intimacy about them. So they can understand that process. I think making sure that they realize that you're just going through perimenopause and menopause, it's important to have that communication. And I think there's so many products now as well on the market that are natural, that support vaginal dryness, that can really help women. You know, a lot of these things didn't exist before, and it's important to know that they're out there. I sometimes actually take one or two of these things to my workshops, and that women should know that actually this is available. They're not available in common high street shops, but actually you can find so many products online now.
Yeah, I think that is good to know, because I think one thing that does shift in a perimenopausal or menopausal situation is the physical intimacy part of a couple, which is absolutely important in a relationship, but it goes through its own ups and downs as women, and her hormones go up and down. And it's important that, as you said, the family must come together, the partners must understand and come together and know. And I think ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਰਗੇ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਿਲੀਵ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ that everyone should know about it, ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਨੋਰਮਲੀ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਲਚਰ 'ਚੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਉਹ ਬੰਦੇ ਕਹਿਣਗੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਨੈਕਟਡ ਗੱਲ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ, ਅਸੀਂ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਇਹਨੂੰ, ਪਰ it is connected to them, because eventually their life is going to get affected if their wife's life is getting affected or their partner's life is getting affected. So it's important ਕਿ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਅੰਡਰਸਟੈਂਡ ਕਰਨ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਕੁਦਰਤਨ ਨੇ, ਔਰ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪ੍ਰੋਬੇਬਲੀ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਪਾਰਟਨਰ ਜਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਵਾਈਫ ਇਸ 'ਚ ਕੁਛ ਕਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦੀ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨੈਚੁਰਲ ਚੇਂਜਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਸ ਵਕਤ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ. ਐਂਡ ਇਟ ਕੁਡ ਬੀ if they are not ready to get intimate, you could just give them a cuddle or something. We are at the end of the program, but before I let you go, if one thing our listeners take today, what would that be? And also, where can they find you, and what else are you up to? Because you do so many things at so many different places.
I know. So I would say, don't ignore your symptoms and don't suffer in silence. So reach out and ask for support, and remember that you invest in your being. That is one of the best gifts that you can give yourself and for your family and all those people that love and care for you. And that is my final piece of advice for our listeners. So if anybody wants to connect with me, they can through my website, Wellness by Me. I take online bookings and my contact details are on there. I now also take face-to-face bookings at Physio Matrix, which is based in North Ealing.
And Aneet can be contacted on 07547156063. Wellness by Aneet 07547156063. Wellness by Aneet ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਰੀਚ ਆਊਟ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਵੈਬਸਾਈਟ 'ਤੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਇੰਸਟਾਗ੍ਰਾਮ 'ਤੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸੋਸ਼ਲਸ 'ਤੇ, ਅਤੇ ਜੇਕਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਫਿਰ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਨੰਬਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਨੋਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸੰਪਰਕ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਅਨੀਤ ਨਾਲ ਜੋੜਾਂਗੇ. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਨੰਬਰ ਹੈ 07547156063. That's 07547156063. I hope you all found the program today really helpful and useful. Knowledge is power. ਅਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਵੇ, ਸਾਡਾ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਡਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਚਲਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ. ਸਾਡੀ ਇਹੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਹੈ ਆਕਾਸ਼ ਰੇਡੀਓ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ empowering programs ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਈਏ with such special people like Aneet, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੀ ਵੈਲਬੀਇੰਗ ਦਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਨੇ. And thank you, Aneet, so much for joining us today in this program. It was a pleasure having you with us, and hope to see you soon with something interesting when you're back with us.
ਐਵੇਂ ਨਾ ਲੜਿਆ ਕਰ ਚੱਲੀਏ, ਆਕਾਸ਼ ਰੇਡੀਓ ਸੁਣ ਲਿਆ ਕਰ.